Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to an Apple TV short review roundup video on Flying Wiener. Now this is the first of these. I mean, if you don't know, I just only recently started subscribing to Apple TV. I actually don't plan to keep it going, the subscription, just because I've already got so many. So I'm trying to get through as many shows and films as I can in a relatively short period of time, so to then cancel it. But I will tell you one thing, I will definitely make this a sort of recurring thing where maybe once a year or so I will subscribe just to catch up on any new shows or new series of them, because generally speaking, I mean, I've watched 5 now, and I feel that Apple TV really does a good job of keeping the quality high. So it's not like Netflix, where I love Netflix, but they've just got so much rubbish. I'm sorry, it's just the truth for me at least. And Apple TV, I get the feeling that it doesn't matter what I actually click on, I'm going to watch something that will really entertain me. So we're talking solely about Apple TV shows here. Now when I do my roundup videos, I actually typically talk about what I like the most out of these 3 first, then second is what I like the second most, and then third is what I like the least. I will say though that it's really just one slightly edging out the other, because all 3 of these shows are really, really good. Are really good. Yeah, so it's like, oh god, this is a bit horrible actually, picking an order, but yeah, that's just what it's about. Anyway, what are we talking about? First, we'll be talking about a show called Drops of God, which is a really cool name. It's actually based on a Japanese manga, but we'll get to that later. That's the first one I'm going to talk about. The second one we're going to talk about is just called See, as in, seeing, vision. And the third one is Severance. Now, many might be really aghast here because Severance was a really big hit, etc. And you might think you've never heard of Drops of God, but that's just my personal preference. Anyway, if you want to jump ahead to any of these videos, although I would wish that you watched the whole thing, you can use the bar below, or there'll also be timestamps in the description. So first we're talking about Drops of God. Now, as I briefly said, this is actually based on a Japanese manga, which I didn't discover until the show was finished and I researched it, and I was really surprised to see that. They've changed up the manga, as I understand, which is based a lot in Japan itself. Here we actually have the main character is not Japanese, it's actually a French woman played by Fleur Geffrier. And the plot is relatively simple. She is the daughter of this wine, this wine collector. He's got a collection of 87,000 bottles of wine with a value of 150 million euros. They did not have a good relationship. She hasn't seen her father in over a decade or more, I think even. And he suddenly dies, and he leaves, his inheritance in his will. He puts it down to her and a second person, a gentleman from Japan who was his best student. He is played by Tomohisa Yamashita, and he devised this contest to determine who of the 2 actually gets to inherit all of this. And it sounds very silly in that way, it doesn't sound exciting, but the execution is wonderful. When I watched it, I was unsure. I will be honest, what drew me in was Tomohisa Yamashita, because I've seen him in Alice in Borderland, which I really, really enjoyed. I can leave a link to that review at the end of this video. And so I saw him pop up on Apple TV, and I was like, yeah, I want to watch this. And it sounds kind of weird, and you'd think this is really going to be very pretentious, people talking about wine and all these things. And they do talk about it, and you actually learn a bit about wine, and it really makes you want to be that person who can, smell or taste all these little notes in there and all these kind of things. I'm not one of those people, unfortunately. But they do it in a way that is not pretentious, so it doesn't feel like you're listening to a seminar, a wine seminar. And somehow they managed to keep it going. It's very interesting. What makes it difficult for Fleur Geffrier's character, the daughter of this wine collector, is that she cannot drink alcohol. So she physically cannot drink alcohol. When she does, her blood spurts out of her nose and she falls unconscious, all these things. So, it's an interesting, and she, having been away from her father so long, doesn't know about wine in the same way. So it's about her learning all these things and overcoming, weird block that she's got that keeps her from drinking the alcohol and all these kind of things, because she uses it as a method to sort of try to get to know her father, you could say. And it's really good. And Tomohisa Yamashita's character, there's also some stuff there you get to see with his family. So it's really well put together. Like I say, it doesn't sound so great, but I really enjoyed it, seeing this journey, this contest, and yeah, just the whole thing. Characters written really well. I enjoyed the dialogue quite a lot. And yeah, a very unusual thing, but I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. Second thing we're talking about is C, which actually already began in 2019. It was, at the time, they said it was the most expensive TV show ever made. And it is quite simple. I mean, this came out in 2019, foreshadowing, because the plot is that nearly all of humanity was wiped out by a virus. Hint, hint. 2019. And there are only about 2 million people left on the planet, and they're all blind. So vision is not something that exists. We are focused on a family, a small tribe. They're called the Alkene. They live sort of in mountainous areas with forests, etc. And the two main characters we're focused on are played by Jason Momoa and Hera Hilmar. And they have 2 kids who were born with sight. So sight seemingly is returning, and it's about them. You know, how do they deal with this situation? And then you get to see as the show goes on. I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I'm about halfway through series 2, and there are 3 right now, so I don't know how that ends. But up until now, you know, as it goes on, the world expands. You get to see other places. There are even cities and towns, other tribes, of course, as well. And yeah, it's just really fascinating. It's got, as it goes on, it gets this sort of Game of Thrones flair to it. So you've got a lot of intrigue and politicking and backstabbing going on, because you've got a queen who's just quite insane, and very religious aspects, because you've got these witch hunters who actually hunt people with sight, because to them they're all witches. So this is a few hundred years after humanity's been wiped out. So, you know, it's a very changed, a rather primitive society compared to what we of course have nowadays. But it's done really well. I enjoy it a lot. It makes you think a lot about people who are blind, and you know how difficult it must be in their everyday lives. And I really love seeing these things that give you an insight into what these lives are like, because you know, it really makes you sit there and go, wow, you know, I probably couldn't deal with this situation. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing to think what people can do, you know, if they just keep going and just have you know, the will to go on. Yeah, so it's made me appreciate the hardships of people without sight a lot more. And I do need to single out Jason Momoa and Hera Hilmar for great performances. This is probably the best I've seen of Jason Momoa. You know, he gets to do a lot of things with the family and with the relationship to his wife. And both of them I enjoyed a lot. So it's a really good show. I really like it. So if you're looking for something sort of a bit Game of Thrones-esque, you know, when it comes to intrigue and that kind of thing, this could be something you'd like. Third thing we're talking about, as I said, is Severance, which many people might, you know, if they watch these 3, put in first place. There was a big buzz on the internet when this came out, and it is really cool. It's this sort of, it's a bit sci-fi like things that you usually see in Black Mirror, for instance, where it's not big sci-fi with spaceships and all that, but it's like, what could technology, how could that do? What could technology do, and how could that affect society? Right now, I've got the 2 sentences in order. They got jumbled up in my brain. Because what is this about? What is Severance? Severance in this show, which by the way was made by Ben Stiller, which I find really cool. I mean, I like him, and to think that he's doing these kind of things, really cool. He also directs quite a few of the episodes. This company, this fictional company that this show is that we explore in this show, has developed this method that is called Severance. You get a chip implanted in your brain, and it basically splits your consciousness. So you've got your normal everyday self, and when you go to work, it switches over to this other consciousness, and that person is only at work, and that's it. So basically you're switching your mind off for work, as it were. The company justifies this by saying they work on such secretive things, so they develop this method to ensure that no one can actually, you know, steal any information, any data. You know, there can be no industrial espionage and all these kind of things. You know, they ask this of their employees, that they have to go through this process, otherwise they can't work there. Yeah. So and the way it works in the show is through an elevator. So there's when they go in the elevator, you know, there's a switch over to the other consciousness, and at the start it's all very wacky and weird, and you're like, okay. And the more it goes on, you realize how horrifying the situation is, because this work conscience, I'll call it, all they do is work. So as soon as they have their work day, they finish, they go into the elevator, and the next thing that happens to them is they come out of the elevator again because they're at work again. So they are just perpetually working, and they've got their own identity, as it were, you know, because they don't know anything about theirs. They call them innies and outies. That's the terms they use in the show. So the outie is just your regular person, your everyday life, who has a house and family maybe, and all these kind of things. And then you've got your innie, who is just your work personality, and they can be quite different. And like I say, the more it goes on, you think, oh God, this is a nightmare, you know, and how horrible for those people who just exist in this workspace. And it is depressing in and of itself, because we see the ones we're focused on. We're focused on two people in particular, played by Adam Scott and Britt Lower. There's also John Torturo here. Torturo? I've forgotten his name, but he's great as well. And we're focused on them, and they work on a computer and they're sorting numbers, and they don't even know what this is for, so they don't even know what the point is of what they're doing there. And you know, thinking about working perpetually, every day, all day, to them, not even knowing what it is you're doing, I mean, it's going to drive you mad. I love the concept of it, and it's just the first series, so they're continuing on. It leaves on quite a cliffhanger, and it's really interesting, because obviously we see these people, you know, more and more, they're unhappy with their situation. You know, why would you want to live like this? I just feel that it drags on a bit too long, so I think they could have maybe cut it down by 1 or 2 episodes, because at times it felt a bit repetitive. In some episodes there were sections where I was like, we're not really learning anything new, you know, there's not much new happening here that feels worth it. So that is why I liked it a bit less than the other ones, but still a really good show that is well worth your time. Okay, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about any of these shows. Have you got others that you would recommend that are on Apple TV in particular? I'm going through the library. I don't even know what I'm going to watch next. We'll see what happens. But I'm really excited, because like I say, until now, the quality of Apple TV shows really, really good and very satisfying. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.